Hello, third graders. We're going to get started on chapter 6 in your workbook. We're on page 244, and the title for this chapter is Economics of Communities. In the other chapters of your workbook, we talked about different parts of communities that are important. And in this one, we have this lesson is going to be about resources in an economy. Goods. The next lesson will be about goods and services. Then we have markets and trade, and then changing economics or changing economies. And then the last one, using money wisely. So we're going to be talking about this essential question and trying to answer it. How do people in the community meet their wants and needs? In this chapter, you will learn about the resources businesses use to make our economy strong. You will also explore how businesses make money and why they spend it. With the team, you will work on a chapter project. We're going to discuss that later. And talking about local businesses and how it helps your community. So here are your vocabulary words. We are going to be going over these words on your own. And if you know it, of course, check it. If you've heard of it, go ahead and check that one. And if you don't know it, you can check on that. And then I will go over the definitions for these words. So go ahead and go through page 246 and 247 to figure out whether or not you've ever heard these vocabulary words before. The first one we have is benefits, then capital resource, economy, entrepreneur, export, human capital, human resource, import, scarcity, and specialize. If you've heard these words before, you can go ahead and check them. If you know what they already mean, fantastic. You can check on that. And then if you don't know it, that's perfectly fine because we're going to go over the meanings together. So the definition of benefits are things that help a person. This can include monetary benefits, so money. This can include education benefits. There's lots of different ways that benefits can be used. Capital resource is a good, such as a tool or machine, that a business uses to provide a good or a service. Economy, the production, buying, and selling of goods and services. Entrepreneur is a person who starts and runs his or her own business. Export, to send goods to another country for sale. An item is transported to another item for sale there. So if you say that California exports its amazing grapes, that could be an example of an export. Human capital is the skills and knowledge a person has to do a job. Human resources are people in a business who provide valuable skills. Import means the opposite of export. So rather than putting something out to another country, it's to take something in, to bring goods into a country from another country to sell. An item brought into a country for sale there is an import. So you could say the UK imports California's grapes. Scarcity is a limited amount of good or service that people may want. And specialize is to focus on a specific subject or task. So you could say that someone's specialty is what they're good at making. But if you say that they specialize in it, that means that is their specific thing that they've studied or that they've worked on to become one of the best at it. All right, let's go to the next page. So for lesson 1, we're going to be talking about how communities use their resources. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about what kind of resources businesses use and how it helps the United States overall with its goods and services. And then at the end, you'll be able to check if you don't understand it, because you're going to be seeing how these things come from the environment that help the US and how it helps the communities around them. So here we have an image on page 248 and 249 The caption says, different communities have important industries. What do you think this industry is? We have a lot of earth here. And check with yourself. Do you see any plants? What do you think they're getting from this industry? You can even compare it to the other photos here, here, and down here. All right, on page 250, don't forget, you're going to be reading the inspect, and it's telling you what it needs from you to do. So first, you're going to read the title and think, what do you think the text is going to be about? You're going to be circling the names of the major crops grown in the United States. Crops, I think we already talked about it before, are foods that the United States grows, so fruit, vegetables, and then underline details that explain how agriculture affects the economy of the country and specific regions. And you can write all of this down here in your notes. We're going to go through this part. The agriculture depends on resources. And don't forget to find evidence and make connections. So you're going to reread the text and try to answer, how do farmers depend on the land to be successful? It says here for the examine portion, the second paragraph identifies 2 crops. You're going to be looking for 2 crops that are grown in more than one region in the US. All right. So agriculture depends on resources. Agriculture is a major industry of the United States. About half of the corn used throughout the world is produced in the United States. The region is ideal for agriculture because of its fertile lands and its rivers. Other major products include soybeans, wheat, cotton, fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. Most corn is grown in the Midwest. Other Midwest crops include soybeans, wheat, potatoes, pumpkins, tomatoes, lentils, and oats. The Northeast produce crops such as apples, potatoes, cranberries, and tomatoes. The Southeast is known for peanuts, rice, oranges, sweet potatoes, and tomatoes. In the Southwest, farmers grow lettuce, potatoes, chili peppers, and rice. States in the West, that's us, produce many crops including potatoes, grapes, nuts, strawberries, and tomatoes. So don't forget, we just went through a whole list of different crops that are grown inside the United States. Make sure that you circle the major crops that we just talked about, and we're going to answer this one as well, where you can look and see if there's any overlapping crops between different regions of the United States. The United States exports agricultural products to countries around the world. Agriculture also benefits every US region. So why do you think that agriculture helps each region of the United States survive? Would you want to live in a region where there is no agriculture, where there's no fruits and vegetables being grown there? And if you were trying to sell fruits or vegetables, do you think that would be good for your business if you lived in an area that didn't have any agriculture of its own? Let's look at this photo over here, where we see that it is harvesting tomatoes. All of these are tomatoes. On page 252, you need to explore the main idea and details. And we've talked about this before. The main idea is what the text is talking about, and the details tell you more about the main idea. So if you have the main idea being that the United States grows a lot of fruits and veggies, now you need to have details. What information can you prove that the United States does that? And then, so the first thing you need to do is read the text all the way through, which you've already done. Reread the text and look for the most important point. What do all of the details try to say? What are all of them talking about? The most important point is the main idea. Look for a sentence that states the main idea. The third thing you're going to do is look for ideas that tell you more about the most important ideas. So look for ideas that tell you more about the most important point. All of the details that you're going to see on the other page are supporting one main idea. And when they support it, that means that they are trying to prove that what they're saying is true. And these are the details. So the example that they want us to use here is that agriculture is a major industry in the United States. So it's saying that agriculture is a major source of business, major industry, right? An industry is a type of business in the United States. So this is what they're trying to prove. Where can we find information about that on the previous page? Let's check. So here we even have the exact same sentence right here. Agriculture is a major industry in the United States. But what did they use to prove it? If I was going to give an example, I could say that the United States produces almost half of the world's corn, because if the United States by itself produces almost half, that means that it is a big deal when it has agriculture, that the United States has agriculture businesses. You could even explain using the next lines where you talk about how the region is good for growing fruits and vegetables. If you wanted to talk about how each region has its own specialties or its own different fruits and vegetables that it grows, you could talk about that too, because down here it says most corn is grown in the Midwest. Other Midwest crops include all of these different things. The Midwest has things that it grows. The Northeast has things that it grows. The Southeast, the Southwest, and of course the West all have different types of crops that they grow. If each region didn't have its own types of crops, then it wouldn't make sense to say that the agriculture is a big part of the United States' business. But because each region does, it is also supporting the idea that agriculture is a major business in the United States. So you can choose your own sentences. Make sure you put them into your own words. Make sure you write them neatly if you're writing it by hand as your details. So you could explain it as, I know that agriculture is a major industry in the United States because I know that half of the world's corn comes from the United States. I know that each region of the United States has its own agricultural crops and businesses. So those would be your supporting details. And over here on page 253, you're going to be doing the exact same thing, but you're going to be using information from your textbook. So in your textbook on page 266 to 273, you're going to be looking for main ideas and details to help prove how businesses use their resources. And here is lesson 1. How can communities use their resources? What is economics? Alex walks his neighbor's dog to earn money. What will he do with the money? His parents pay for the things he needs. Needs are things you cannot live without, like food and clothing. So Alex can spend the money on things he wants. Wants are things you do not really need, but are nice to have. Maybe he will buy goods or services. Goods are things you can use, like comic books. Services are things a person does for you. For example, a person might give you a guitar lesson. The study of how people use money, goods, resources, and services to meet their wants and needs is called economics. Sellers provide goods and services. Buyers pay for these goods and services. Buyers and sellers work together so people can get what they want and need. This is page 266 of lesson 1, How can communities use their resources? And we'll read the caption. Alex saved his money. Now he can spend it on goods and services. How businesses use resources. The United States has a very large economy. In fact, some states have larger economies and produce more goods than other countries in the world. Economy is the way a country uses its money, goods, resources, and services. Why is the United States' economy so large? The country has many resources that it uses to make goods and provide services. So let's read the caption over here. Fruits and vegetables are grown in many regions of the United States. These are resources that we are able to use. So because lots of the United States is able to grow fruits and vegetables, that is a resource and it can help us have a bigger economy. Natural resources. The United States has many natural resources. The United States has fertile soil and a mild climate. As a result, every U.S. region has the ability to produce goods from the land. Fruits, vegetables, and livestock are grown and raised on farms. Farmers sell these goods to people all across the world. The United States also has rivers that people use to ship these goods. And let's read the primary source. In their words, Aldo Leopold. When we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. The United States also has other natural resources. Lumber comes from many forests and many states. These include Oregon, Washington, and California. The southeast and northeast regions also provide lumber. Seafood is caught off the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It is also found off the Gulf of Mexico. Minerals are mined in many states. Nevada, Arizona, Texas, California, and Minnesota are the top 5 mineral producing states. Energy resources are also important to the country's economy. The United States has non-renewable energy sources such as oil, coal, and natural gas. We've talked about renewable energy before. It also uses renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and water. Every community has different natural resources that help its economy. Using these resources benefits both communities and the people who live and work in the community. For example, in Dubuque, Iowa, community leaders realized that the Mississippi River was a valuable resource. They developed attractions such as the riverboat rides along the river and the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. These attractions bring people to their community, and create new jobs. As a result of using their natural resource, the community benefits. Communities throughout the United States have many human resources. Human resources are the people who work for a business or a person. People with ideas and skills provide services. Teachers instruct students. Doctors work to keep people healthy. Architects design buildings. Factory workers turn cotton into clothing. These workers are all important resources. Manufacturing is a large part of our country's economy. Manufacturing is making products with machinery. The money that consumers spend on products helps our economy. The jobs that manufacturing provides also helps the economy. In parts of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, workers manufacture cars, trucks, metals, and machines. Workers in Texas produce computers, bricks, foods, and petroleum products. Some Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire workers make electronics, appliances, chemicals, and medical equipment. Human resources used to make products in the United States to help keep our economy strong. Human capital. Businesses look for people with skills, knowledge, and experience to do a job well. These characteristics are known as human capital. A person's human capital can add value to a business. If a person lacks skills or experience, it can take away value. As we learn, we gain skills, knowledge, and experience. This helps us develop our human capital. So here, the caption for this photo, students develop their human capital. By them learning skills that they're going to later use on in their jobs, these students will have more skills than someone who didn't learn these things. Capital resources. The dairy industry is important to the United States. For example, many people who work in the dairy industry work with cows. But how does the milk get from the cow into the carton you have in your refrigerator? Many farmers milk the cows with a milking machine. Then the milk is stored in a refrigerated tank. Farmers and other workers use trucks to haul the milk to factories. People who work in the factory operate machines that make the milk safe to drink. Then the milk is delivered to stores. A milking machine is an example of a capital resource. Capital resources are the tools and machines that people use to make products. Businesses need capital resources to make goods. Often, businesses will borrow the money to purchase these capital resources from banks. When businesses borrow something, they receive something of value now and agree to pay it back over time. So here, manufacturing plants need capital resources to produce goods. So they're usually taking out loans and then they'll pay them back. And here we have a day in the life of a restaurant owner. Camilla owns a restaurant. She needs resources to run it. She uses natural resources to make food. Camilla buys avocados at a farmer's market. When she goes to the market, she is the buyer. She uses the avocados to make guacamole. In the kitchen, Camilla turns on the lights and washes her hands at a faucet. Her mixer makes it easy to make large batches of guacamole. She uses these capital resources to make meals for her customers. So she went from a buyer to now selling. Camilla helps her community when she buys goods from local farmers. People love to go to Camilla's restaurant. When she is working, Camilla is the seller. She serves her customers food and they pay for it, but Camilla needs help. The workers she hires are the human resources she needs. The workers provide services such as greeting customers, waiting on tables, and washing dishes. Camilla is also an employer. At the end of the day, the restaurant has earned money. Camilla uses some of the money to pay workers. She saves some money to buy more avocados and to pay taxes for the services provided by the government. She keeps some for herself. She can spend this money on things she wants and needs. Camilla has a busy day. So here are the caption for this photo. Camilla uses many resources to provide her customers with meals. What are some things that you think that she might need to be providing her customers with meals? So now that we've gone through pages 266 to 273, what were some main ideas? Let's think about what were some main ideas that you found on those pages. On this page, we talked about natural resources and how the United States has lots of options for natural resources that it can grow, or even renewable resources like energy. So down here, we talked about non-renewable energy, renewable energy that the United States uses. So for the first one, if you were thinking of a main idea that talks about how the United States has lots of renewable resources, that can be your main idea. And if you're going to explain using your details, then you could talk about how the United States has both renewable and non-renewable energy, and how do you know? Here in this paragraph, it talks about different minerals that the United States uses, or things like coal, which are a non-renewable resource. If you're looking for a second main idea, and you're thinking about how the United States has human resources as another resource, right? We talked about human capital and how for the United States, when a person has a skill, then they add more value to a business because that person already knows how to do the job, and because they're trained in it already, they make the job more functional, more efficient. And so another resource that the United States definitely has is human resources. What does that mean in terms of, what does that mean for the details? Well, you can talk about how manufacturing is a big part of the United States' economy. If you want to talk about how in different states they manufacture cars, trucks, metals, machines, all of those are details. Even down here to the capital resources, talking about the dairy industry and why that's important. For sure, there are many parts of the US that have businesses that maybe use machines that harvest things from animals, or even if we wanted to talk about meat products, right? Because milking is an animal product. So there's a third detail for you to use. And then for your last one, you can talk about this page, these two pages right here, where they talk about how Camilla owns a restaurant and she uses not just natural resources, but she also uses human resources, and how all of those are part of the United States, how the United States runs its businesses. You have people growing goods, businesses buying those goods, maybe turning them into something else, and then selling them. So all of those things are main ideas and details that support the idea of how the United States uses different parts of its own resources. It's not just humans, it's not just machines, it's not just agriculture, it's all of these things put together. So now we're on page 254. So you're going to be writing a paragraph describing a business in your community that depends on the resources found there. So if you wanted to talk about a local restaurant that you go to a lot, or one that you and your family like, or if you wanted to talk about how a store nearby you that you guys shop at weekly, or it depends on whatever the business is that you want to talk about. For me, if I was going to write it, then maybe I would talk about a restaurant, because if I want to talk about natural resources, then I can say the local restaurant that I go to makes its own bread inside the store. But if it makes its own bread, then what are the resources that it needs in order to make its own bread? So flour, where does the flour come from? It probably comes from people who are growing wheat, which connects to how the United States isn't just people selling things, but also people making goods, people changing those goods into something else. So that could be one type of thing. If you wanted to talk about technology, you could talk about that too, because technology is not just people on computers, but also programmers, people with skills. All of those different things are part of human resources. So you need to write a paragraph describing a business in your community that depends on the resources found there. You can talk about even how, if it was a food-based place, then you could say that they get fruits and vegetables probably from nearby, because California grows a lot of fruits and vegetables. If not, if you think that they imported fruits and vegetables from another country, where do you think they got it from? If you think that maybe they imported their seasoning, maybe they have special things inside that restaurant or special things inside that business that are imports, so things taken from outside. Those are all great details to add to your paragraph. And now here we're going to be talking about how do businesses in your communities use resources to help people meet their needs. So if I'm continuing off of my restaurant idea, right, why do people eat at restaurants? Why don't people just eat at home? That's the first question. Well, if I think about it, eating at a restaurant helps serve a need. What is the need? That maybe, for example, someone is busy and they can't cook a meal at home, so they buy it from a restaurant. Okay, but why do they do that, right? If you're talking about a resource, then you have to think about, how does it affect the people in that community? How does it affect the people around that place that they're buying it from? It saves time. They don't have to go and buy groceries. There are lots of factors. There's a lot of things that help explain why we need restaurants that are not just maybe really quick places. Maybe there's a reason why people in that area have a lot of one type of restaurant. So if you go through City Heights, we have lots of different cuisines. We have lots of different types of foods. Why do we have such a mixed style? Why do we have so many different kinds in one area? Probably because they know there's a need for different people who want to eat different things. It saves time. They don't have to try to make all the foods by themselves. Maybe even if they were talking about a store, you can't buy certain spices in small amounts. Maybe they wanted to import it from another country, and maybe that's what that store has. If you wanted to talk about human resources, why would a business, maybe if they're talking about technology, maybe they're computer programming, whatever business that you want to talk about, which you could use from here. If you wanted to talk about human resources down here, where it's talking about cars, trucks, all of these different things, then you could mention that people need cars. A community definitely needs a way to have jobs, a way for businesses to grow. Without trucks moving things from one place to another, do you think that they could move a lot of foods or a lot of different materials from one place to another? Inside the text, we also talked about how the United States has natural resources like wood, coal, all of these different things. These all help the communities around them, grow, and also they help if they were trying to export it, because then it gives people work that they can use to get money. So this is the end of chapter 6, lesson 1. We'll get started on the next lesson next time.